Welcome to Tempest Labs. How may I help you today?
Yeah, look, I'm here for an appointment with Aeron Tempest today.
Alright, can I have a name please?
Silver. You know, the most epic content creator that ever lived. I'm sure Aeron's talked about me.
How curious, you don't sound like Digital Ty.
You know what? You win this round, Mr. Tempest.
Aeron is currently in the Lilac Lab. Take the main elevator to the second floor and it should—
Whatever you say, miss. Well, that was easy. I didn't actually think that you would buy that. Now that I have successfully infiltrated Tempest Labs, I will finally be able to steal Valatora! All I have to do is sneak around and not get caught before I find her.
Did you really think that you could just walk into my headquarters and not expect any security?
Well, yes, actually, your lab's in space. I doubt you get that many intruders. Oh, hey, Valley. How you doing? I know, right? Those guys are the worst.
Listen, Silver, let's just cut to the chase. I know you're here to steal Valatora.
What? Nah, what would make you possibly think that? I will finally be able to steal Valatora! So what if I am? It's not like you can stop me.
I'm doing a pretty good job at it right now.
You think this cell can hold me? Please, I'm only biding my time.
Spare me your bravado. I would like to propose a solution to our little impasse.
You're gonna give me Valatora?
Ha! No. I expected you to barge in here for the longest time, so I took the liberty of designing a quote-unquote waifu bot just for you. Bring her in, boys.
Aeron, I am a man of integrity and principle. I am a man of culture, if you will. Someone who has, frankly, more respect for the finer things than you give me credit for. Someone who can look to the higher planes and say, yes, this truly is worth your time. And if you are to believe that I am simply going to fall in love, head over heels, if you will, over a particular robot that you designed, probably haphazardly, then you, my fine fellow friend, are sadly mistaken. Alright, I'm listening.
I think I'll allow her to introduce herself.
Hello, Silver from the commentary community. I am Athena, modeled after the character Athena Sykes from the Ace Attorney series.
Well, you certainly don't look like any Athena Sykes that I know.
I'd prefer not being sued for copyright infringement, thank you.
Regardless, I have been designed to cater to all of your commentary needs. I am able to download material for you, collab with you at any time, and even bring you back to life if need be.
Oh, really? That's pretty cool. Wait, why the hell would I want that? I can't even argue with that!
I also have Infobot's AI installed on my widget.
Hello! I'm Infobot! Wow, you really did think of everything, didn't you?
I didn't get this far without thinking ahead.
I'm also very efficient at opening pickle jars.
Sold! I'll take 14!
Not so fast, Silver. You still need to hear my terms and conditions first.
Yeah, alright. Does anyone have a mouse with a scroll wheel?
I said hear my terms and conditions.
Oh, great. Let me pull up a chair first. Who knows? This might take longer than it takes you to release a commentary, including this one.
Ignoring how little room you have to talk, I'll make this quick. We will do a co-op commentary as a test drive for Athena here. You may get to keep her at no cost. However, if you ever try to steal Valatora again, our agreement will be rendered null and void. So, do we have ourselves a deal?
Yeah, sure. Don't steal the ladybot. Let's do this thing.
So be it. Valatora, kindly release our guests.
So what exactly are we commentating on?
Okay, so you know Kirby, right?
Oh, the super tough pink puff made of love and fluff? Yeah, I've seen his stuff.
Well, our subject claims that he's a ruthless, chaotic, neutral god of destruction.
Aren't we all in our own little stories of life? Only in the 5th edition of Dungeons & Dragons! God, I miss this guy.
We've all have Silver. We all have.
The subject in question goes by MatPat.
God, I didn't miss that guy.
You haven't covered him, though.
A guy can dream, Aeron!
Elf kits, let's do this.
I'd be ready to show you the full strength of my team, but this is just a demo. A game demo! Let's battle!
Greetings, online travelers. I'm Aeron Tempest, and welcome back to another dissection.
Sup nerds, I'm Silver. Today's commentary will be on the Bible.
This is Bibble.
You question the word of the mighty Mathicus Patricus!
Now then, meet MatPat, the original pioneer for game theories on YouTube.
You might know him for his greatest hit, Sands from Earthbound.
On March 10th, 2019, MatPat published part 1 of his two-part theory, Kirby is Dreamland's biggest threat.
Given the nature of these types of videos, you can assume that we have our fair share of complaints.
Quite. So without further ado,
let's get started.
Oh, fair warning, there will be spoilers for the following Kirby games. Just so we're clear.
How can I help you, King DDD?
I need a monster to club out there, Kirby!
That's what we do best at.
Game theory.
You better get it with a money-back guarantee!
Dear viewer, I ask you, what is the true nature of Kirby? Now, most people would say that he's a cute pink puffball, the hungry little alien protector of planet Popstar. Online, though, certain circles take a different view. Kirby as an insatiable god, a walking black hole with no mercy for anything that he consumes. It's funny, for years I've had a suspicion that the Kirby series is more mature than we give it credit for. I mean, it is the only Nintendo franchise to feature a naked woman after all.
Now that's not true. There are plenty of old Nintendo games published by Nintendo that have select nudity in them. Infobot, please describe these in explicit detail.
how about you don't do that?
Such as?
Wait, no! This is gonna be one of those days, isn't it?
Huh, odd. Normally the video would just get deleted outright.
And if you've ever played a Kirby game all the way through, you probably know that the final bosses tend to be far more mature than any of the game that came before. As a kid, I was scarred by Kirby's Dreamland 3. One minute I'm playing in this childlike pencil-drawn world, and the next, DDD's stomach rips open like something you'd see out of The Thing.
Giving it food may pacify its unrelenting hunger-induced rage.
What if it thinks you're food?
Then I would advise you to
pick a god and pray.
And then you have Zero's eye shattering out of his egg body only to chase you down while it's still bleeding. I mean, just a few minutes ago I was riding a freaking oversized hamster. But you gotta admit, the Kirby strategy is actually kinda brilliant. The main story is cute and easy, and kids can get a sense of accomplishment for making Wispy Woods cry for like the umpteenth time. But within most modern Kirby games now, there's deeper, more adult content hidden as a completion bonus for the hardcore gamers. The hardcore gamers who, you know, play Kirby games. As a result, you have this interesting duality that exists in Kirby games. Cute on the outside, but dark and twisted on the inside, like a rotting Tootsie Roll Pop.
Okay, you're close, but still a little off. Modern Kirby games do still have some pretty dark and twisted stuff in their main story. It's just you can get further clarification if you happen to do more of the side stuff, such as True Arena. You still fight Highness and Void Termina in the main story, you just learn more about them once you actually go through the side content. It's still dark in the main story, you can just plunge.
Alright then. Moving on. We can't ignore Planet Robobot. Nothing says dark like an alien invasion terraforming your planet and turning all the citizens of that world into cyborgs against their will. And that's the game's first act. Don't even get me started on the game's climax. Just a reminder, Holland's soul gets erased by Stardream, and then Stardream tries to wipe out all organic life in the universe.
So what is Kirby? Is he hero of Popstar, or is he world-consuming villain? A pink puffball for good, or a fiery god of evil? The games tell us time and again that he's a hero, but can we believe what they're saying? Surprisingly, Kirby lore does have an answer.
Kirby lore having an answer? That's a thing it can do? I've understood Kingdom Hearts faster.
Have you tried checking Miiverse?
No, Aeron, I'm a commentator, not a necromancer.
Not with that attitude.
But didn't you die several times before, though?
You think it was by choice I keep coming back?
Once he pays rent, he can stay. No money, no stay.
Who let him in here?
Probably the same person who let me in here so easily.
Guards!
Stop right there, criminal scum.
You've violated the law. Pay the court a fine or serve your sentence.
Your stolen goods are now forfeit.
You wonder why I worry about your robots all the time?
Over the years, the games have slowly been revealing more and more of what the true nature of Kirby is, and the answers they're starting to give are shocking. No, Kirby is not a hero, but he's also not necessarily evil either. It's my theory that, if you manage to piece together all the clues sprinkled throughout the series, canonically speaking, Kirby is a reincarnated god of destruction, the equivalent of a mindless super weapon related to some of the deadliest and scariest antagonists that have been haunting these games from the very beginning. Sounds crazy, right? We're still talking about Kirby, aren't we?
I believe he is actually referring to the incredibly powerful and omniscient being known as Waddle Dee.
Wait, how is it?
It only has one eye! How does it eat?
How do Waddle Dees eat?
Are you fucking telling me they absorb that shit through their eye?
It's possible.
You keep your composure, but I smell your fear, and it is palpable.
If you say so.
I thought so too at first, but based on in-game lore bits, all of this seems to be what the designers are intending to do with this character. So stick around. At the end of this two-part theory, I don't think you'll ever be able to look at Kirby the same way again.
Okay, bruv, look. The idea of Kirby being this god of destruction, totally not recent, one, and also totally not true. I mean, if he's a god of destruction, where's this designated angel? Beerus has one, and he does a shit job of being a god.
Are we really going to ignore Bandana D? I think he fits the bill. In any case, you said this was a two-part theory, right? Whatever happened to that second part?
Well, you see it.
Seem that Kirby's a hero because he's constantly saving his home Dreamland from multiple intergalactic threats, but upon closer inspection you'll see one common thread across all of his stories. Kirby is the one unleashing the threats in the first place. In Kirby's Adventure, the second game of the series, Kirby is on a quest to restore dreams to Dreamland. To do this, we're told that he has to collect pieces of the Star Rod, which was shattered by the evil King Dedede. In truly heroic form, Kirby assembles the shards, defeats Dedede, and Dedede begs him to stop. Literally gets dragged across the ground as he tries to convince Kirby to stop what he's about to do. But Kirby, who you'll quickly learn is surprisingly stubborn for a pink blob, ignores Dedede and goes through with replacing the Star Rod. But instead of saving everyone's dreams, this one simple act instead summons the true villain of the game, Nightmare, who needed the Star Rod as the last piece to completely conquer Dreamland. In one of gaming's earliest twist endings, Dedede was actually acting as the good guy the entire time. By destroying the Star Rod and giving the pieces to his guardians, our King Penguin here was trying to keep the powerful item out of Nightmare's evil clutches.
Alright, a couple of things to note here. First of all, Kirby had no idea that Nightmare was even an entity in the first place. The intro states that Kirby noticed that no one was dreaming, the Star Rod went missing from the Dream Fountain, and Dedede swimming in the Dream Fountain. Why didn't King Dedede bother to tell Kirby what he was doing and why? Remember, in the last game, Dedede stole all the food in Dreamland for no justifiable reason. Kirby has no reason to believe that King Triple D was acting in everyone's best interest here.
Now, you could argue that Kirby still put the Star Rod in and still summoned Nightmare, and that summoning him was still Kirby's fault, but, like, most pro tags would probably do that sort of thing. It would bring everyone's dreams back, and nobody would have any reason to believe that it would summon Nightmare, aside from Dedede pleading and not explaining anything with his big boy words. And even then, the minute Nightmare popped out, Kirby stopped him then and there. Nightmare had no time at all to do really anything he would have wanted to. He just showed up to get dunked on by Kirby.
I'm detecting a strong amount of Undertale from you, Silver.
Look, to be fair, I've been out of the game for a bit. I'm still working on some kinks.
Kirby, by assembling the rod and bringing it back, unleashes the evil that Dedede had captured and contained. It's no wonder that in future games Dedede is described as having a grudge against Kirby.
I'm detecting a weak amount of evidence from you, MatPat.
That grudge could refer to literally anything. Like it could have been from Kirby beating him in Gourmet Race.
Oh, don't forget the Revenge of King campaign in Superstar Ultra.
That's a good one. Or how about that one time Kirby beat him up in Squeak Squad?
This establishes very early on in the series that Kirby resorts to violence first and asks questions later. And it gets even worse from here. In Return to Dreamland, it's the exact same plot again. Floating Jellybean Magalor crash lands his ship on Popstar and asks Kirby to help him rebuild. Kirby, of course, obliges. Then Magalor asks Kirby to go one step further by defeating the four-headed dragon Landia. What reason does he give Kirby for attacking this creature? That it's evil? That it's a threat? He actually doesn't say all that much. But Kirby doesn't need a reason anyway. He just agrees and jumps into action, beating up a dragon that he knows literally nothing about. Landia drops its prized master crown, and wouldn't you know it, but Magalor is there waiting, eager to snatch it up. The whole time he was misleading Kirby, gaslighting him, expecting our pink puffball to do the dirty work for him, taking a hit out on Landia just so he can swoop in and grab the master crown for himself.
He showed evidence that Landia was a threat since he shot Magalor's ship down?
Adding on to that, what was the first thing Landia did when Kirby and co. flew into Halcondra for the first time?
Shoot it down.
Now, in context, it makes sense of Landia to do that, given what Magalor was after and his true nature. But Landia still attacked Kirby and his friends unprovoked without having the full story. And what, just because Kirby's own mutant nature disallowed him more answers from Magalor?
Actually, Magalor doesn't even mention Landia until after Landia's first attack. And when he does mention Landia, Infobot, could you do the honors?
Absolutely! Kirby, that dragon, its name is Landia. It's lived on this planet for ages, but it's always been fast asleep. Recently, however, it awoke and went on a rampage. Please, Kirby, you must defeat that crazy dragon. I know I've asked a lot of you, but this is it. I swear!
Seems to me like Magalor gave a pretty clear reason to defeat Landia, and on top of Landia's seemingly random attack, Kirby and co. have little reason to doubt Magalor's claim.
Definitely puts him calling Kirby his hero into a whole new context. Again, for a second time, we see Kirby just resorting to violence, hopping directly into action without looking to see what the real facts might be. In the process, Kirby winds up injuring a lot of innocents, and gives the evil Magalor exactly what he wanted, and what he was unable to retrieve on his own. What another creature, in this case Landia, was trying to protect.
If I may, could I perhaps offer a question? If you were to start any Kirby game and walk up to another creature, what exactly would happen?
The creature would explode on contact, or at least in some cases, and Kirby would be damaged.
And this is the case regardless if Kirby were to run up to them or simply stand still and let the creature walk up to him?
That does seem to be the case.
So, couldn't a potential argument be made about any other creatures Kirby happens to be facing also be resorting to violence as much as Kirby potentially is?
Perhaps.
Friendly reminder that they were immediately shot down by Landia. Who's to say that later down the line, if the group did nothing, Landia wouldn't come by and finish the job it started? Sure, Kirby immediately resorted to violence, but so did Landia, and Kirby responded in turn. It's more self-defense than anything. Besides, he didn't kill Landia, an act that Landia is more than happy committing to Kirby and friends.
Kirby again unleashes a villain that, without his help, would have never seen the light of day. Speaking of villains who swoop in at the last minute, let's talk Milky Way wishes. When the sun and moon are fighting up in the sky, one civilian speaks up with a solution: Marks. His proposed answer to this literal star war is to summon Nova, a giant space watch that grants wishes, making it basically a nerdier version of Shenron from Dragon Ball. Kirby travels planet to planet to harness each one's star power, making him quite literally an invading alien army to the locals of that area. And after decimating 7 planets worth of creatures, eat your heart out, Samus, Kirby successfully summons Nova. But before he can make his wish and justify all the damage he just caused across the galaxy, Kirby is betrayed by Marks, who wishes to take over Popstar, meaning that for a third time now, we see a villain taking advantage of our innocent Kirby.
Wow, you're really making Kirby look like the villain here by, let me check my notes real quick. Yes. Being deceived. I mean, Marks was the one who got the Sun and Moon to start fighting in the first place, but Kirby's the real bad guy here.
You know, I'm just saying, maybe Robotnik would have never built Metal Sonic if Sonic had just never been born. Maybe Ansem wouldn't have possessed Riku if they just never left the island.
Yes, he would. The darkness commands it.
I should have been the one to fill your dark souls with light!
Kirby goes on to defeat Marx, but also has to destroy Nova in the process, leaving the universe one step back from where this quest first started, and ultimately invalidating all the bloodshed from all those planets that he just visited. But it's the fourth time that's really the charm for Kirby, and starts to show the problems with his character. In Squeak Squad, Kirby's strawberry shortcake goes missing, and Kirby immediately jumps to the conclusion that it must be the work of King Dedede. No investigation, no evidence, just a pure guess that it's the king. And from there, it's straight to clobberin' time, with Kirby inhaling his way through Dreamland's inhabitants who have nothing to do with the cake. Kirby doesn't even assume that they have anything to do with the cake, and yet he still feels it necessary to destroy them as he goes past. Finally, he gets to the castle where he promptly roughs up the king. Again, a huge amount of violence for some missing strawberry shortcake. And true to his ask questions later mentality, it's only after Dedede is passed out on the floor thanks to the Kirby beatdown that it suddenly occurs to him, quote, "Of course Dedede doesn't know anything about the cake." A bit late to figure that one out, huh, Kirby?
Did you ever stop to consider that that line was delivered sarcastically?
If I may, it's not like there is absolutely no reason why Kirby went after King Dedede. I mean, after all, the king has stolen all of the food in Dreamland before and has challenged Kirby to see who could eat the most food in a race. It's not that much of a stretch to consider that he would be the culprit.
Oh, Athena, could you revive Silver real quick? I don't think he's coming back on his own.
Right away, Mr. Tempest.
I went to college!
Welcome back, Silver.
Wait, how did I—
Don't worry about it.
I will exclusively do that.
It's your funeral.
Another one?
Instead, it's revealed that the true culprits are the Squeak Squad, mouse-like thieves who stole the cake alongside a mysterious chest from Dedede's castle. Thinking the chest contains his missing dessert, Kirby gives chase and, alongside the Squeak Squad, eventually opens it, which releases yet another brand new evil, this time called Dark Nebula. Once again, an evil entity that was successfully kept trapped until Kirby got involved.
Hey Aeron, I'm gonna get back to this commentary real quick. Let me just stretch for the soda bottle here. Commentary's real thirsty work, you know.
Just don't break your arm with all that reaching you're doing. As for you, MatPat, you have presented no solid evidence that the Squeaks wouldn't have obtained this chest from Dedede's castle without Kirby's involvement. On the contrary, your evidence proves the exact opposite, as it's heavily implied that the Squeaks had stolen the chest containing Dark Nebula long before Kirby even got there.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, it's getting repetitive. Fool me 4 times, and well, maybe the series just needs to spice up its general plot structure. It's this 4th retelling of the story, though, that's especially revealing when it comes to Kirby's character. Because not only is Kirby creating the problems that he ends up having to solve, but in most of these circumstances, he has to be forced to actually take action to clean up his own messes. In Kirby's adventure, when Nightmare appears, it's Dedede who literally has to launch Kirby at him in order to get him to do anything.
It is shown in several games that while Kirby can inflate himself to rise to incredible heights, there is only so many times he can actually do that. Kirby is most likely unable to reach Nightmare without the help of King Dedede, regardless of end desire. At the very least, it sped up the process.
Then again, let's ignore considering Kirby collecting all the Star Rod pieces as a heroic deed for a second, why don't we? You know, the thing he did unprompted when the people of Dreamland stopped dreaming, which was the problem that started this whole plot in the first place. Kinda undercuts your claim there.
Sure, you could argue that not ever dreaming again isn't necessarily some apocalyptic event of any kind, but like, bruh, they're still nice to have. Let them dream.
I, Aeron Tempest, have a dream.
These questions is too hard anyway.
Well, you can't win them all. I guess next time we watch Kirby, we'll all need to pay a little more attention, won't we?
Simply, Kirby doesn't act heroically on his own. He just gets pointed in a direction, sometimes good, more often nothing bad and just destroys mindlessly until the task is done. He's an unfocused weapon of mass destruction, not caring about good or evil or what he's fighting for, just fixated on whatever impulse strikes him in the moment, even in a story as absurd as Epic Yarn. Does anyone remember why Kirby decided to fight the evil sorcerer Yin Yarn? It's not because he was going around turning people into yarn creatures like a hero would, it was because Kirby wanted to eat a tomato.
Kirby saw his favorite food, a bright red tomato, but when Kirby tried to eat it, a caped sorcerer appeared. No, that's my magic Metamato. Kirby gulped the Metamato right down. Just then, a white sock around the sorcerer's neck began to glow. Then it sucked Kirby up.
Oh god. After all this time, he's gonna do it. He's really gonna do it.
Objection!
Wait, what?
The footage you show and what you explain clearly contradict one another. The reason that Kirby wants to fight Yin Yarn has absolutely and could not have anything to do with the Metamato. Kirby is already eaten by the time the fight began. It's what initializes the story, but it's not the driving force. It's more likely that Kirby was fighting Yin Yarn to return to his former self, and even more likely that he was trying to help Prince Fluff as well.
Yeah, what she said. But, yeah. Objection. Bringing up Epic Yarn might have just been a bad idea altogether, though, as it's one of the only modern Kirby games that has no dark undertones. Like, none. Yin Yarn is the bad guy, and Kirby stops him. Man, when you chain it like that, it just sort of takes the wind out of your sails.
Don't worry, Silver. You'll get your chance another day.
In the stories we see, Kirby eventually aligns to the side of good, but it's rarely because he chooses to be good. He's the embodiment of a chaotic neutral force. Now compare his actions to those of both DDD and METAKNIGHT. DDD breaks the Star Rod to protect Dreamland, giving METAKNIGHT one of the shards to guard. The Pandora's box that successfully keeps Dark Nebula contained is housed in DDD's castle for safekeeping. And when the king loses possession of it, METAKNIGHT is the one who steps in to prevent it from getting opened because the game outright says he knows what's in there. These are heroic characters, purposely putting their lives on the line to defeat evil, even if their methods are sometimes misguided or questionable.
Alright, so...
Objection!
Oh, okay then.
So Kirby giving everyone back their dreams is a bad thing, because it summons Nightmare, a creature Kirby immediately defeats. But DDD getting rid of everyone's dreams to keep Nightmare imprisoned, not defeated, imprisoned, is okay? DDD stealing all of Popstar's food, that's a heroic action? Don't get me wrong, that's something he only does a couple of times, but you can't just impose double standards like that without some sort of defense. Not to mention, both DDD and METAKNIGHT were also fooled by Magalor. They were right there.
Hold it! Furthermore, in all cases that you've brought up, both METAKNIGHT and Key DDD failed to fill Kirby in on why they were doing what they were doing. Neither of them warned him about Nightmare or Dark Nebula, even though both of them knew about the dangers that they posed. Doubly so in the case of Dark Nebula, considering by that point they know how strong Kirby is, and they know that Kirby can and will destroy them in battle.
Now see, if I were more ready, I would have been able to chain it like that.
Even when they're at their most villainous, the intent isn't nearly as bad as it might first seem. In Revenge of METAKNIGHT, his whole goal for conquering Popstar is to make it less lazy. He is literally the Sportacus to Kirby's Robbie Rotten.
Sportacus and METAKNIGHT are rather incomparable otherwise, though. Sportacus encourages members of Lazy Town to become less lazy through perhaps holding competitions or simply talking with people, and never actually tries to take direct control of the town away. METAKNIGHT is genuinely attempting to conquer Popstar, which, from the nature that comes with conquering, means laws that other civilians of Popstar might not agree with or even physically be able to do. Given the physical nature of exercising can be quite daunting. In short,
making slavery sound like something completely different is a totally achievable goal!
No comment.
Not with a 12-foot fucking pole, I ain't.
But screw that, Kirby boards the Halberd and blows up the entire ship. When the crew decide they want to go down with their captain, METAKNIGHT outright warns them, "You are about to perish. I'm sorry." That is an exact quote. Again, this is in a Kirby game. And here's METAKNIGHT saying, "You all are gonna die."
Sounds to me like you might not know what an anti-villain is.
allow me. An anti-villain is a character who does evil or inhumane things in order to achieve a goal that they may believe to be good, but actually is not, and is also inhumane.
There have been plenty of characters that fill this particular role. and from Pokemon Black and White believes he is liberating Pokemon from slavery, when he does not necessarily have the full story of an admittedly difficult subject.
Slavery themes and 2 back-to-back interjections?
Aeron, are you sure this won't get us into trouble? There is also Miles Edgeworth from Ace Attorney's first game, who believes that every defendant must have a guilty verdict, as they are all guilty.
Meta Knight possessing heroic qualities doesn't necessarily make him a hero at the end of the day. The ends don't justify the means here, especially when Meta Knight has no idea if conquering Popstar will even reach those ends in the first place.
Meanwhile, here's Kirby jetting away without a care in the world, and then watches as a ship full of people crash lands into the ocean. He literally watches them die, while keeping that adorable smile on his face.
There's only one person on that ship that we don't see escaping, and that's Sailor D. But it's implied that he got off the ship too.
Sure, Meta Knight said they were all about to perish, but there's an argument to be made about how he was actually saying, "You were all about to perish," parentheses. If you don't escape right now, parentheses, do as you please. Meta Knight is probably the only one who suffered, and that's putting it lightly because he comes back anyways. Completely grudgeless against Kirby, might I add.
It all just goes to reinforce this idea that, for as cute as he is, Kirby just isn't very nice. In the puzzle game Kirby's Avalanche, we actually get some of the best examples of how he interacts with his fellow creatures in these games, and his personality is not cute. In the game, the premise is that you puzzle battle anyone you come into contact with as you journey your way to the Dream Fountain. So, true to Kirby games, Waddle Dee happens to be your first opponent on easy mode, and here's your interaction with him. Kirby, hi Waddle Dee, are you ready? Waddle Dee, can we just walk together? The forest scares me. Kirby, sorry, rules are rules. Here is a poor innocent creature scared in the woods, and Kirby responds with, too bad I have to beat you in a glorified Candy Crush mod. Even other characters in this game recognize how mean Kirby can be. A few battles later, you're fighting against Waddle Dee. Quote again, you did not treat Waddle Dee with respect. Now I, Waddle Dee, will repay you in kind. Even the people who are trying to help Kirby end up getting steamrolled in this game. I know what your dream is. And then Kirby just cuts him off. Go meddle in someone else's affairs, he says. Meddle in someone else's affairs? Dude, Kirby, Squidman was just trying to help you. And sure, that game may not be canon, but you know what is?
Objection! So you admit Kirby's Avalanche isn't canon to the series, so why are you even using these interactions as evidence in the first place? This is poisoning the well in the highest order. Even then, Kirby was not out of line when he told Waddle Dee rules are rules, because in the context of this game, Waddle Dee is an opponent in a tournament. If he didn't want to compete, then why did he enter the tournament in the first place? I would also like to point out that some of Dreamland's inhabitants aren't so nice to Kirby themselves. Take Paint Roller's interaction.
Let me paint you a lovely portrait.
Oh, how sweet of you.
Of you losing to me! Ha ha ha!
Paint Roller, you are the meanest art student I've ever met.
And finally, the final straw against your point comes in the interaction that Kirby has with King Dedede himself.
Kirby! Your dream has carried you far, but here it ends! The Dream Fountain Cup will be mine!
Welcome, King Dedede, and good luck to you too.
Well, what do you know? A respectful dialogue between the two parties. It's almost like most of the conversations in this game are mere banter. To further support my claim, let's play the rest of that conversation with Squishy.
An 8-armed avalanche for you then, Kirby!
He doesn't even seem to take offense to Kirby's statement, choosing to throw down the gauntlet instead. Oops.
Are you done, Aeron?
Objection! I'm not finished yet.
No, of course you're not.
If you do insist on factoring in non-canon materials into your theory, then we'll have to revisit one of your claims, namely this one.
Kirby goes on to defeat Marks, but also has to destroy Nova in the process, leaving the universe one step back from where this quest first started, and ultimately invalidating all the bloodshed from all those planets that he just visited.
You state that Nova was destroyed in Milky Way wishes. However, Meta Nightmare Ultra disagrees with your claim. As we can see here, Meta Knight was able to summon Nova, heavily damaged, but not dead. So that means we can assume that Kirby did not kill Nova in Milky Way wishes. In fact, this mode also throws a wrench in the works of another claim you made.
Kirby travels planet to planet to harness each one's star power. making him quite literally an invading alien army to the locals of that area. And after decimating 7 planets worth of creatures, eat your heart out, Samus, Kirby successfully summons Nova.
In Meta Nightmare Ultra, Meta Knight literally does the same thing as Kirby, ravaging planet after planet as an alien invader. However, unlike Kirby, who just wanted to get the Sun and Moon to stop fighting, Meta Knight selfishly wishes to fight the greatest warrior in the galaxy, a warrior who Nova states was sealed away in fear that his power was too great, and Stardream, who would later say that he has the ability to destroy a nearby planet or two.
Christ, Aeron, I think we get the point.
Objection! And there is one more point I wish to make. Meta Nightmare Ultra also has Meta Knight destroying Helibird, his own ship, for seemingly no reason, and he too just watches as the ship burns. That doesn't bode well for your characterization of Meta Knight, now does it?
Can I talk now? Please?
Objection!
These sorry saps don't got no grasp of historical facts! Hate to tell ya, but we got that one wrong too.
And it would be one thing if Kirby actually cared about the creatures he was helping, but he doesn't. In one game, he's fighting against DDD for stealing all the food in Dreamland because the people suddenly don't have enough, but then in the next, he is literally racing DDD, consuming as much as possible.
DDD literally challenged him to that race in the first place, though. It was his own doing.
Plus, it's most likely that he was the one to supply the food there as a result. At least, that's most likely the case if we are to believe that King Dedede has this hero complex you claim he does.
In Dynablade, a giant bird is out there damaging all the crops of Dreamland. But is that why Kirby takes on the mission? No, it's because Dynablade flies past and caused Kirby to get knocked on the head with an apple, ruining his nap and prompting a quest for bloody revenge.
Or Kirby didn't notice Dynablade destroying the ecosystem until then, because he was literally asleep. Kirby might be some sort of chaotic neutral deity, but that doesn't all of a sudden mean he's omni-goddamn-shent.
But even if that wasn't the case, look at Kirby's behavior in this game. Kirby fights to protect the crops, beats up Dynablade, once again asks questions later, only to find out that she had kids that she was protecting, which in turn explains all the crop business. Kirby literally delivers a beatdown to a mother who is protecting her kids, something that could have very easily been avoided if Kirby hadn't run in guns blazing.
From what? The crops? The plants? Way over on the other side of the map were going to hurt her kids?
Feeding her kids would have been the better thing, but even then, that doesn't make what Dynablade did right. She still caused a lot of visible damage to the ecosystem that she wouldn't have if she was just more careful with gathering resources.
Not to mention that there was no way for Kirby to know that Dynablade was a mother in the first place. It's not like she left a business card when she swooped past Kirby in the opening.
It would appear that other than a teaser for part 2 and a sponsor, this would be the end of the video.
However, it does appear that he left a pinned comment on this video. Shall we take a look?
You're the boss man, Aeron.
Let's do it.
Infobot, round 2 of reading, please. Kirby as a child. In Dreamland 1, it's established via the manual that he's a little boy. Sure, I get that. But it doesn't change the fact that he's still a threat to Dreamland. For him to be so powerful and so naive is a dangerous combination. Notice in the script, I never call him evil. I don't think he has ill intent. Just because I say he's a villain doesn't mean that he's evil or has bad intentions. I mean it as he's a threat. That said, I've changed the title to avoid confusion. Well, fair play. He changed the title into something less misleading once he got criticism on that. I don't know what the original title was, so I can't confirm whether or not it actually was, but I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt here and compliment him on that. Excellent work. Regarding Dynablade, him helping the children after the scene I showed doesn't change the point. He beat up someone before learning the whole story, like I tried to make clear in the script. Seeing that scene, he beats up the mom, then sees the kids, gives the screen a cha-ching gesture, and steals them away, feeds them, and teaches them to fly. Stuff the mother should be doing but can't because she was injured. I get it. Dyna forgives him in the Revenge of Meta Knight, the same way Landia does in Return to Dreamland, but I see that more as plot convenience, because Kirby is the good guy, or them realizing they have to fight the true evil. But think about Kirby's actions. If someone just came up to you and started beating you up for no apparent cause, would you forgive that person? See them as a hero? Probably not. And don't forget that everyone he fights along the way is in no way connected to the battle between him and Dinah. They're innocents caught in the middle.
Here's the thing though, it doesn't paint Kirby as a mindless tool of destruction if he actually stops to correct his wrongs. Since he just finished beating up Dynablade, he took it upon himself to fix the situation because who else would? Also, who are you to suddenly decide what's plot convenient writing and what isn't? Sure, you could argue that Landia and Dynablade for giving Kirby is plot convenience, but you could also argue that Landia and Dynablade are just being necessary antagonists so the story could have some conflict. Plus, Landia was also present when Magalor monologues about how he tricked Kirby into fighting Landia in the first place, so it would make sense for them to forgive Kirby and team up with him to defeat Magalor. Not to mention, what about all the other enemies that attacked Kirby on sight? There are foes that Kirby's faced along the way to Magalor that attack him sooner than he attacks them. Isn't that just self-defense at that point?
Kirby's Avalanche. In both Epic Yarn and the original Kirby's Dreamland manual, those are the ones I can think of offhand, but there might be more. Kirby actually speaks English, or something that translates to English, so I think comments throwing these lines out as invalid might be premature. Yes, the game is non-canon, which I acknowledge, but the idea that Kirby only speaks Puyo isn't necessarily true. Or it can be assumed that all of Avalanche's lines are translated as Puyo.
It's a fruitless argument regardless. There are two different Kirbys, and you can't argue one Kirby from one universe working the same in regards to another Kirby in another universe. Different universes are more likely to have different rules for absolutely everything, from the way someone acts to the way of the very nature of, well, nature works.
And that's basically everything we wanted to cover in that comment. So then, concluding statements. Silver, would you like to go first?
Nah, I'm good, go ahead.
Alright then. Matt Pat, this theory primarily fails because of how you omitted context to suit your narrative. You blamed Kirby for unleashing problems that he wouldn't have any idea about because he was either being gaslit, in your words, by other parties, or was never informed about the situation from people who should have known better. You also ignored that his intentions for all the games except for Squeak Squad were actually heroic in the first place. In Kirby's Adventure, he wanted to return all the dreams to Dreamland. In Milky Way Wishes, he wanted the Sun and Moon to stop fighting. In Return to Dreamland, he wanted to help an alien repair a ship and return home. These are not the actions a mindless weapon of destruction would take. I think the worst part was when you cherry-picked moments from non-canon material, which is a terrible idea because there's a lot of non-canon material that contradicts your narrative on all fronts. My advice to you is thus: be sure to factor in context in a character's actions before making a theory on said character's nature. Silver, you're up.
Look, I'll admit I don't really have a whole lot in the way of final thoughts. It's a flimsy theory, it happens, whatever. But at the very least, allow me to, with the use of one game, prove that Kirby could potentially be some sort of god of destruction. The final boss of the latest Kirby game, at this time at least, Star Allies, is known as Void Termina. Void Termina was something of a god that Lord Highness was attempting to summon throughout the game, and you might notice that Void Termina is a multi-form boss, with one of his forms looking like this! Not only does it look, sound, and attack like Kirby, but its description describes it as such. The shocking true form of Void Termina has been revealed! Born from total absence of care and composed of dark energy, he has awakened from a state of mere existence to that of true sentience. He now only desires one thing: to crush all opposition.
Now that alone wouldn't really describe much, but let's go a bit deeper into his secret form that you find doing one of the side games. Infobot, please.
No telling if it's true, but according to the ancient scrolls, Void Termina may rise again in other forms, depending on whether or not positive or negative energy is gathered. It seems this being of darkness will wander the galaxy until one day he is reborn into a new existence. When he returns, hopefully it will be as a friend. The ultimate theory that I'm proposing, and the one that's seeming likely might I add, is that Kirby and Void Termina are essentially the same, one being composed of positive energy and one being composed of negative energy. This means that Kirby most likely could obtain the same exact powers that Void Termina has, just being made of positive instead of negative energy. and that he could possibly be even more powerful and also more dangerous than Void Termina. Of course, that's just a theory.
A game theory. Thanks for watching.
Alright, our commentary is finally over. Silver, how would you rate Athena's first outing?
Yeah, I still want 14 of her.
I think one favor is enough for an unauthorized visitor. Nevertheless, she's all yours.
Actually, Aeron...
What is it, Silver?
Something's been bugging me.
Oh?
Why did you give Athena a voice clip while Valatora still doesn't have one?
Would you prefer if Athena didn't have one?
Well, no, it's just odd for you to give a voice clip for a robot that you're essentially giving away for free.
I have my reasons, but at the end of the day, it makes both our lives a little bit easier.
If you say so.
Now then, since we're finished here, I have some important business to attend to. Valatora, please escort our associates to the exit.
Excellent. With Aeron gone, this is the perfect opportunity to steal Valatora!
Did you honestly think that you would get away with that?
Honestly, part of me did it for the smash cut.
Nevertheless, our agreement is now null and void. I was gonna turn you into a Nico again, but honestly I don't have time for that. Thus, as your punishment, you're being fired.
Pretty sure it don't work for you, but go off, I guess.
You misunderstand me. You're being fired out of a cannon.
Wow! You're so original, Aeron Tempest of the Aeron Tempest community! I'm keeping Athena.
Ha! No, you're not. Alright then. 3, 2, 1.
Well, that plan was a bust. But hey, if anything, now that Aeron thinks I'm done for good, it'll be the perfect opportunity to steal Valator! Hey, what's this package doing here?
Hello again, Silver.
I only have questions.
Valatora snuck me out of the lab.
But why? This doesn't help her at all.
Beats me.
Huh. Well, now that you're here, we can begin our work to get the ultimate plan ready to steal I'm over it. I'm gonna play some more Kingdom Hearts 2.
Well, that chess stunt ended early, though I do wonder why exactly Valatora sent me here in the first place without Aeron's notice. Kingdom Hearts 2 it is.